We're gonna have fun.
What you know about me? Seen it all, heard it all. Oh, what you know about me? I done it all, just want it all. Oh, what you know about me? I seen it all, heard it all. Oh, what you know about me? Oh, what you know about me? Oh, what you know about me?
Hey everybody, welcome back to another season of More Than a Title. This is season 4, episode 1. I'm your host, Jarrett Thomas, Chief Revenue Officer at OTB, Outside the Box Digital. And I've got my co-host, my brother, my cousin, my partner in crime, Chadeo, your favorite CEO's favorite CEO. What's good, baby?
You know the motto, if it ain't bright, it ain't right. Black is so boring.
You know the vibes, man. So first of all, I missed y'all, man. I'm glad we podded, man. I'm ready to pod today.
I'm ready to pod.
We just came from a conference, man. I'm ready to do this thing. So before we begin, let's do some house cleaning things. You know, first and foremost, season 1 through 3 is now exclusively brought to you by the Alive Podcast Network. So please download the app. It's streaming and brought to you by. So thank you for all the supporters. Thank you for all the guests from season 1 to 3. You guys are the reason we're growing and glowing. And we're gonna got a crazy lineup for you. Started with this gentleman right here. This guy right here is a beast, man. So I'm gonna just tell you straight up and down, guys. Like, I've been following this brother for a long time, for 3 years from my beginning of my journey. But he went from zero marketing experience to head of content at $1 billion startup in 12 months, all because he figured out how to capture attention and convert it into revenue. He helped build and scale Scott's infamous brand from content engine from 20 million to 200 million ARR, and also rocketed his side hustle, The Reader, into a 6-figure business. Now he's advising some of the world's fastest growing companies and startups, including Notion, Wiz, Audience Plus, and many more. So let's introduce my guy, Director of Content at Clary, Devin Reed. What's going on, baby?
Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard.
He's in the hot seat.
I say welcome aboard because this is about to be a train ride, baby. Yeah.
I like it. I was gonna ask for the air horn if I didn't get it on site, so I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So
what's going on, boys?
Yeah.
I appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on the show.
No, of course, man. Thank you for being there, man. Like I said, I've been following you for quite some time, man. Udi was my first guest on More Than a Title, bro. So,
oh, really?
Yeah, he was the first guest. He set it off for us. So to have you here on season 4, episode 1, man, it feels like we're gonna be able to connect some dots. We're gonna have some fun, brother. But let's, you know, it's all about you, man. So for anybody first-time listeners, More Than a Title is not about tips and tricks. Even though we're gonna give you business ideas and also help you elevate, because that's what this platform is about. We're gonna really get to know who the person is, because without any title, you're a brother, you're a father, you're so many things before you are that title, and that's who we want to get to know, brother. So if you want to, man, let's start from the top, baby. How did you get into the industry, man, and where are you from?
So I'm originally from Sacramento, California.
Okay.
And so I graduated from Sac State, and it was tough getting my first gig out of college. So if you don't know much about California, like Sacramento 10 years ago didn't have a whole lot going for it. It's starting to come up a little bit more, but it's got a lot of the capital is there. So a lot of the jobs are the government jobs, right? Like, no offense to anyone in the government jobs, they're kind of boring, but they're secure. You get a pension. And when I was graduating, I'm like, I guess that's what I'm trying to do. I'm just trying to get a job, get an apartment, kind of get my life started. And I had applied to 127 jobs. I remember like turning in 127 applications, and I'd finally gotten an interview at the Capitol, at, one of the Capitol buildings at one of the offices. And so I had that. And I finally got one, and I got an offer. And so I said, okay, there's one lane. And at the same time, through a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend, I got one interview for a tech job in San Francisco. And so being from Sacramento, other than listening to Bay Area music growing up, I've been to the city. Like, I was like, man, this is like the city of San Francisco is actually very small. But when you come from Sacramento, it feels like New York. Like, it's just like, it's like, this is the place. This is where I want to go. I want to try to make it. And so I can go through the interview experience because there's a bit of a story there as well. But the long story short is I ended up getting a job offer in tech for like an entry level, like customer success, customer support type of role. And so I took it, and packed up, moved from SF with, I don't know, $1,000 in my pocket, whatever, enough for rent for a month, set up shop in tech. And from there, got into sales, got into marketing. We'll break into each of those parts, but that's kind of like the long story short.
Okay. Damn! I gotta backtrack you. I'm gonna be honest with you. I've never heard of somebody putting in 127 applications. What age were you when you first got into tech, when you were putting in these applications after college?
I was 23 when I graduated.
23 years old, and you had the ability and the focus to say, I'm going to put in 127 applications. Somebody, you know what that means? In layman's terms, somebody going to give me a damn job.
That's it.
Somebody going to give me a damn job. So I just want to
it.
clap for you on that. That's amazing fortitude, brother. That's amazing.
And then you bet on yourself, though. You know what I'm curious? Because you packed up and left, right? So you went from Sacramento to San Francisco, and it was gone as a customer success role. So for those who are listening that don't know about the sales hierarchy, right? Like it's kind of middle pack, kind of like the sales roles, right? We're important, but we're not C-suite or anything like that. So you went on the limb. What was your first impression of Gong?
So it wasn't even at Gong. This was 10 years ago. So this was a company called ClearSlide. I joined Gong 5 years ago.
Gotcha.
So this was a company called ClearSlide. They're not even a company anymore. And it was the bot. You want to talk about hierarchy? It was the bottom. It was the bottom. Like I literally was calling. So Twitter was an account of ours. And I was literally calling people like, hey, Chad, this is Devin at ClearSlide. And you're like, so? I'm like, actually, you're a client of ours.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah. So check this out. Like, this ClearSlide, we can do all these things to help you be a better seller. And my job was like cold calling existing clients. Like, you know how frustrating it is to be like, no, you're already a client, and they treat you like I don't give a shit. And so that's what I was doing for the first 3 to 6 months of my career, was just calling people, trying to get them to adopt the platform so someone above me in the hierarchy can make more money on commission.
Am I wrong? Isn't ClearSlide like they used to have pitch decks or whatever? It was kind of like the Zoom help you with the meetings. I remember ClearSlide. We used to use that. I used to hate that platform.
So
did a lot of people I called. Yeah.
But just clarify for me. So when you say that Twitter was already working with your company, but you're still calling people and they don't know about it. And so can you explain that? Because I'm a little confused. Yeah.
So imagine, VP of sales at Twitter buys ClearSlide, like, I don't know, 500 licenses, right?
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All 500 people aren't using the platform. All of them haven't been through onboarding. They just bought the licenses. And so then you have to go get them to onboard. So in a year or two, they renew because they've been using the platform, right? So like my job was, like that kind of cold calling existing clients, which is kind of weird. Yeah.
And to give you more context, Chad, like it was a sales enablement platform. So, he's going to Twitter, right? So they got a whole entire sales division, right? Like Court Bro and all them. And now what they're trying to do is to have this ClearSlide product help them with pitches and help them be more effective and accurate. So now they've got these licenses, and now the VP of Twitter might be like, what the hell? Are we even using this shit? They're making so much money that you're just like, it's money hand over fist. You don't really know what's in your tech stack. And then you're calling, your Devin's calling like, hey man, you're spending like $500,000 with us. Like, who the hell are you? And now you have to try to convince them of the value and do all that other stuff, man. It's a lot.
See, now it makes sense to me because, I was thinking, I know the company's not cheap, and with Twitter, with the workforce that they have, I assume that they were spending quite a bit for these type of licenses. And I would think, common sense train coming through, choo-choo. You know what I'm saying? Like, I would think, right? I would think that if you bought something for a couple $100,000, you would at least send out an email or have like a conference and say, hey, we now have this. Let's implement a program so that the workers actually use this thing. Damn, like it's a lot of money.
It was the growth of all costs era. Money, like you say, money was flowing, and even still, when you have 500 people, it's tough to get everybody on a Zoom call to do the training. So anyway, that's how it started.
So what was the transition from ClearSlide to, or if you don't mind me asking, if you don't mind sharing with us, bro, what happened at ClearSlide that made you want to leave?
So I was about 6 months in. The VP of sales came to the floor, and of this role, there's probably like 30 of us. And these are all like mostly dudes out of college, because what it was a stepping stool to a closing role. So if you can make it here, usually like a year or two in, you do like an interview, and then you go be a sales rep, right? Yeah. Well, for some reason, like VP comes to the floor and he's like, look, we have 8 spots, like 8 or 12 spots. We need to fill them immediately. If you think you have what it takes, I don't care if you've been here for a day or 3 years, we're doing like a pitch off next week. You need to go to this gal's office by tomorrow at noon and tell her you want in. And immediately I'm like, nah, I'm not a sales guy. That ain't me. Like, I'm not a used car salesman. Because that was the mentality I had. I had no experience in this. Like, let me tell you, like, I literally showed up to the job interview in my like tuxedo wedding shoes. Like, you know, like I had
Not the wing tips.
the wing, bro. Chad, you would see yourself in these things. They were so shiny, like so unnecessarily overdressed. And I'm in like slacks that don't fit. I'm in like my dad's polo with the tie I barely know. Like I look terrible. I looked terrible, but I got it. And so I'm wearing those every day because I couldn't afford any like dress clothes. I'm looking like I'm ready for a wedding reception on a Tuesday afternoon. But anyway, so I'm like, nah, that's not for me. And then I was like thinking about it because I'm like, but at the same time, this feels like a pretty good opportunity. Like someone's literally coming to me and being like, I don't care if you're ready. Here's the door if you want to walk through it. Right. And so I like talked to like my uncle who's like, you know, he's like in business and he's been really successful. And he was like, you're calling me to just tell you to do something you already know you should do. You just want me to tell you to do it. And I'm not going to do that. You need to decide. So the next day I went into her office at literally, I remember 11:59 a.m., like right before the deadline. And I was like, all right, Tiffany, put my name in the hat. And so Maz, you know what's worse? I didn't know I was overdressing for like months.
The comment section. That's from the comment section. Let you know that Jarrett used to overdress the same way.
That's my same story, Dev. It's all good. The double-breasted Steve Harvey suits.
Yeah, right. What's messed up is for the first few months, I thought that was like, I thought it looked good. Like I thought I was killing it when I like got ready. And then after a couple months, I'm like, no one's dressed like me. And I don't think that's a good thing. Like not in the good way. Right. So you do this pitch. What happened was you get like a day or two to prep. And what happens was it was a hiring manager and a director would do a mock call with you. So you had to like pitch them clear slides. You did like a discovery and then like a little demo. And I'll never forget it. So I got to like 25 minutes out of the 30 minutes. And the call was starting to break down. Like my knowledge and endurance was starting to, you know, I'm getting winded here. And at the end, they start, which I learned later was a tactic, is like they press you super hard at the end. Like they just beat you up with objections to see how you respond. Yeah. Because they know you haven't been trained for it. You didn't go through onboarding. They're just seeing like, if I punch you in the mouth, what are you going to do? Yeah. And the objection was like, Devin, why would I pay for this when I'm already getting that feature with this other, you know, some bullshit. I don't know, this thing I already have. And I took a beat and I was like, you know what, Jarrett, for you, free 99. It's on the house. If we can get this done, free 99. And there was this like long pause. And they just started busting up laughing at me because they're like, man, you don't know what the hell you're talking about, but you're on the ropes and you gave it a go. And so they ended up hiring me. They're like, you know what, we'll give this kid a try. And so I moved into the sales role, was there for about a year and a half. And then I moved on.
So there's two gems in that. There's two gems in that. First of all, somebody gave you an opportunity that you wasn't ready for, right? They opened the door because a lot of the times you fight for these opportunities. You said it was only a certain number of slots, right? So they gave you an opportunity. And number two, you were confident enough to say, shit, I'm gonna shoot my shot, right? Because again, if I lose, I lose. But at least you could be honest with yourself and say, listen, I tried, right? But I want to say this. Let me ask you this question. I know you said you graduated from Sac State. Is your degree what's your degree in?
English,
right. So we had this conversation the other day about the statistics of people that go to universities and spend 4 or 5 years and come out $100,000 in debt and then get a job doing something else.
Right. You which I wasn't going to be.
Right.
Which I wasn't going to do.
Right. You know, so that makes your story even more, astounding because you're trained in something completely different.
Yeah.
And something completely different that you studied and spent your money on and then said, okay, let me pivot in that. let me go left. You know what I mean? So, you know.
But let's take it back though. Where did that pivot come from though, right? Like we're right out of college. You're like, man, like I'm not gonna go to a college. I'm not gonna go to a credit university. I'm not gonna go to high school and teach English. Like, where did you go? Right. Yeah. Did you see Wolf of Wall Street? Like, nah, I gotta go in sales. Like, what was it for you, bro?
It was something. It was actually close to what Chad said. So I graduated, luckily with not a lot of debt because I went to like junior college. Like I played basketball for junior college. I bounced around a little bit, and then I took the last couple of years at Sac State, like 2.5 years. So I graduated from there, but I wasn't in crazy debt. But what happened was I was supposed to go in to be an English teacher in high school, and so what happened was you have to get accredited, and there was this program at the UC Santa Cruz that is like one of the best programs for this, and you get your master's and credentialed in like 18 months.
Nice.
50 grand. And so I'm on my, we didn't talk about it. I'm on my own, by the way. I'm like living at my girlfriend's mom's house because my family moved. My grandpa got sick, like this whole thing. So I'm on my own.
Right.
Wow.
And they're like, okay, you can go follow your dream, but you need to put up 50 grand, which would have put me like 80 grand total in the hole. And teachers make like 40 grand a year. So I didn't even need to do napkin math. It's in my head. I'm never paying that off. I'm broke. I'm literally signing up to be broke for like 20 to 30 years. And I was like, that's not me. That's not my MO at all.
Right.
So I had to give that up. And then we get back to 127 applications in this tech job. And I go, look, if I'm going to roll the dice, let's go big. Let's go to SF, see if you have what it takes, try to make it. And if not, you go do a government job, you pay off your student loans, and you go live a good life that way. So yeah, that was the decision there.
That's fire, bro. And the reason why I asked you that, because you need to have that mindset in order to succeed in sales, as you know, right? Like, 100%. So for you to not be that hungry and be like, man, I'm just going to jump on the limb. I'm going to go to San Francisco with $1,000 and I'm going to be successful. They didn't even give me a sales role. It was a customer success role at that. Yep. And I'm going to figure it out. So that's why when you spoke to your family, he was like, man, do I have to tell you what you knew what you were going to do? Because you're a killer.
Yeah. Yeah, that means that they've seen that in you from an early age, right? And
absolutely.
And oftentimes people that are above you, parents and people that are just more experienced than you can look down on somebody and see the potential. So they already seen the potential. They're like, stop wasting time. Go do what you was meant to do. That's what that message was.
I think plus I also think all the great sellers luck into it. You're not in high school or in 8th grade thinking about I'm going to be the best salesperson ever. Said nobody. You know what I'm saying? Like same thing with me, Devin. I'll give you the quick. I won't go into the long, but like at the end of the day, when I was working at BBQs and Starbucks, I had my first child, and at the end of the day, I was like, man, I'm just putting 100-something applications. I'm on Indeed, anything that say I'm better than my shit, I was on it. I went to a random place, bro, for a hospital call center job, and the dude, some random recruiter, heard me speaking. He said, man, have you ever considered sales? Said, man, I've been hustling all my life. I've been selling all my. What are you talking about? You feel me? In my head, and I said, yes, I'd be interested. He said, it's $40,000 a year. Beats this 10 I'm making. So he said, sell me the pencil straight out of Wolf of Wall Street. The movie already came out. I fucking knew the line. So I'm like,
write your name.
The cheat code. The cheat code.
The movie came out. You shitting me? So I hit him with that. And next thing you know, I'm in a Manhattan in his office, and I'm making a virtual video for the employer, and I end up getting the job. And that's how I started my sales career, bro. So the same thing like you, man. And then when kicked their ass when I got the first day at the job, they're going around the room. I'm from Buffalo, Yale. I'm like, I'm Jarrett from Evander Childs High School with baggy ass slacks and some Pradas, braids down my back with a 3X polo. Like, I'm gonna kick your ass. And they looking at me and laughing.
He was looking like Allen Iverson on draft day.
Talking about practice.
Like Allen Iverson on draft day.
And I hit their ass with the Tyrone.
Philly, here I come.
I hope you did the step over somebody, Jarrett. Like at the end of the month when you beat somebody, I hope you just did like that.
Oh, it was a lot of bodies in the sales on the sales chart. I stepped over, but shout out to y'all. So, bro, since we're talking about sales, right?
Yeah.
So, and we're talking about good, successful sellers. What do you think are some of the best traits, or what advice would you give to other sellers right now that are young, that want to be and grow in a career, specifically in tech? What's the best advice you'd give?
I think the first thing is accountability. So that's the biggest thing. And I know that like telling someone to be accountable isn't it's almost cliche, right? But the truth is the people that I've seen be successful. So like I've been number one on the sales floor before, but I was spent more time not being number one, right? Like figuring out how to get there. And so I was always trying to sit next to, learn from, hear from the guys who were killing it. And you could tell who they were because most of them weren't stressed. So if you're on a sales floor with 100 people and 2 guys aren't stressed or gals aren't stressed, that's interesting to me because how are you number one, number two, but you're not sweating. You're not, you're just not like a stress ball at the end of the month and quarter. And so I wanted to learn from them. And part of what they had said was you need to be accountable to control what you can control. You can control your activity. You can control what time you show up, what time you leave. You can't control when you get a bad email. You can't control when you get hung up on. You can't control a deal that would have paid your mortgage for 3 months falls short at the end of the quarter. You can't control any of that. But you need to own it because no director, no VP wants to hear an excuse at the end of the day. They want to hear ownership. And I've seen guys get ripped up like, what? Hey, Chad, how come this deal didn't come in? You said it would. It's like, oh, well, she said she was going to do this, but it didn't happen, blah, blah, blah. And they get ripped to shreds, if not fired. Like I've seen people fired on the spot for BSing their way through like why something went south. I've also seen people go, I told you it would close. It didn't close. Here's why. I made a mistake at this point. I didn't do this at this point, and that's why it didn't close. And you get a second chance for that. You live to fight another day. And so I think it's just built like really tough, like thick skin for me, because one, all, you know, Jerry used to say, all the rejection that you just get used to, you just get, I call it Teflon. You just become Teflon. You get used to it. But at the end of the day, no one feels sorry for you. Work harder. That's what I would tell people. No one feels sorry for you. Just work harder. No one cares that Chad got an inbound for 100 grand. He hits his quarter and you didn't. Work harder. And so I just had that mentality throughout my entire career, and it compounds year over year because you get smarter, you meet more people, more doors open. But if you keep that mindset, you're going to keep being successful. You'll find ways and make your own luck.
That's message. That's one of the realest sales advice I've heard on this show, bro. And that is so real for anybody, that accountability. I've seen the same exact thing, right? And for me, in my first sales job, I did the same exact thing. So while everybody, the hustle I had, right? I could make $200, right? But then I'm looking at the dude that's making $50, and like you said, he's not sweating. He's getting up, taking a cigarette break when he wants. He took 3 shits throughout the day or something. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? Like, he's killing it. And I'm over here making $200. Why? So shout out to Santo Polanco, shout out to Steve Santilli. I looked at those dudes and I end up killing it with those guys. I end up learning from them, listening to their calls, you know, studying, just mirroring them. Yo, what does your day-to-day process look like? And then I implemented what I had, created my own gumbo, and I became a successful seller using that tactic and holding myself accountable. So that was the best. Oh man, I appreciate you saying that.
Right. I mean, you know, any job that I can think of that does sales is always incentive based, right? Like, you know, risk versus reward. Sales, my background, Devin, is construction. I have a construction company. I've been doing construction for like 22 years. It's one of my other companies. And even though we have a union, it's like that, right? You can be in a union, but like if I'm a foreman, I'm a manager on a job, I could have a bad day. Like a really just come in like, I didn't get none last night. Somebody getting fired. You know what I'm saying? Let me tell you something.
Hey, speaking of deals falling through.
Yeah, I'm telling you, right? So, and I've seen it happen, right? Like I've seen people come in and go through orientation, and before coffee break at 9:15, they start at 7. Before 9:15, they're getting paid out for the day. Like, yeah, this is not gonna work out. Like, you didn't even see me work, but you know, you look funny. You know what I mean? Like, so if I say that to say, like, again, like, think about what you said before. You already had the idea of going into a government job that was secure, benefits, medical, dental. Let me tell you something. In today's day and age, medical and dental sometimes is worth more than your salary. Let's talk about it, right? Medical and dental might be worth more than your salary. So to turn down a job that you knew had guaranteed pension, medical benefits, if you had a child, whatever the case, and say, I'm going to go over here where I could get fired tomorrow, that's a big leap. That's a big leap. That's a big leap.
That,
yeah, that was a bet on yourself.
And again, at 23, right? We're not talking about older Devin that now has experience, that has hindsight. We're talking about young Devin right out of college. You came out of college from partying and having fun, and you're still like, I'm responsible enough to make this type of a decision. So I applaud you for that.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, man.
I applaud you for that.
And I respect the construction game. My dad's a foreman as well, iron workers. And so I paid through college every summer for 3 months, was doing iron work in Stockton and Sacramento, 115-degree heat. Yeah, man. Doing construction. So that's, I think, part of, you know, the story too, is like, I paid for college. I, you know, no one gave me a check to go to college. I would work my ass off all summer. I got one tattoo at the end of summer. That was my treat. A couple $100 for a tattoo. And then all of it went to tuition, man. So yeah, respect. I know that's tough work for sure.
Yeah.
So you said that your father was an iron worker. Let me ask you this: do you have any other family in sales?
I was the second to graduate college, and the only other guy who was in sales, like a CEO, that was my uncle. So he was the first to graduate college, but no one's like in sales, I would say. No. Okay, so you didn't have any guidance like beforehand, right? Somebody to look up to say, hey, like, so you say your uncle, what's your uncle name? Like, let's say Tommy. Hey, your Uncle Tommy make a lot of money. He drive that Cadillac. What do you do? So you didn't have that type of influence. So this really was a blind move for you. Yeah, it was close. Not Tommy Lonnie. But you're close. You're really did he have a Cadillac though? Did he have a Cadillac? You got a BMW 750, and I always remembered that. Shit. I saw him pull up in that, and I was like, "You own a house. You got the car." We were like cordial, but he lived on the other side of the state. Like we didn't interact a lot. but I always had respect for him, the way he acted, the way he, treated the family. And you saw he's made it somehow. You never knew, especially when you're younger, you don't really know the ins and outs of financial stability, but you're like, look, if you're driving a new 750 every couple of years, you must be doing something right. And so he was always open to like coaching, but it was never like, all right, Dev, look, you're going to get your English degree, then you're going to do this, and you're going to do this. And it's like, that was never the case. I was always kind of step by step. And as you're saying, Jared, just bet on myself. Like, I'd rather go big and fail than be like 80 one day and be like, damn, I didn't go for the woman of my dreams. I didn't try, I didn't take that job interview. I didn't do that podcast, that show, because I was scared or whatever. Like, I'd rather try and fail and just see how it goes. And it's, paying off so far.
Message. That's you are where you are today, brother. And I kind of want to get back into that too, brother, because I'm also curious how you got into Gong. Because I'll tell you how I got into my second role, right? So my first sales job was, I went in the room, there was Yale, this and that. I'm making cold calls. I'm killing them. I'm one of the top sellers for 8 straight quarters, doing $250 a quarter, bro, like clockwork, right? I had 3 different CEOs in a span of 6 months. So if you could imagine the transformation we've had, is, hey, Jarrett, do this, focus on this, call your prospects and do this. All right, Jarrett, this guy is gone. And now a new guy's coming. He said, Jarrett, scrap all that shit you just did and told your clients about. By the third one, I was done, right? Couldn't even get a good morning, right? And I'm keeping the lights on. So I ended up leaving. I went to a place for Cannes Lions. I'm thinking it was the film festival. And I end up working for the biggest fucking event company in the world, going to France, going to London. I thought it was the film festival. I kid you not.
Talk about misunderstandings.
and fucking head cracking them.
Right.
Didn't know. I went in the office. I'm in the Central. I'm in a big office. First 2 weeks, they sending me out to London. I'm going all over the world, bro.
I remember that. I remember that.
And I'm like, holy crap, I hit the jackpot. So I'm curious if you had, what was your first impression of Gong? Was it something that you lucked into? Was it something that you did research? Because you look like a very calculated guy. I could tell, but I'm just curious if that was just a good play or not. You know what I mean?
Look, as intentional as I live my life, luck always plays a role into it, and like call it chance, whatever. So I'm first to say that. So the first part was so from Clearside, bounced around a couple companies. One was Eventbrite, so like that one was successful. Ticketing platform. We've all probably bought a ticket.
Yeah, we love Eventbrite. Yeah.
And so I was there for about 1.5 years, almost 2 years, doing really well, and they were about to go public, like in a few months. Like you're starting to prep for that. So that's like in the tech industry, that's like where you want to be there for that. And so, but what I had realized was I'd kind of like capped out. Like I wasn't really able to make more money. There was no promotions. Like I tried to move into marketing. That's when I first actually tried to move into marketing. Got to the final interview, got let down. Tried to move into sales enablement, no roles. Try to get into like, there's nowhere to go. And so I'm like, look, I don't want to be here in this role when I feel like I could have more potential. I want to do more. And so here's the story how I got into Gong, which is kind of full circle. So sitting at my desk one day, my director comes up to me and she goes, hey, our VP just found this article. He really likes it. Why don't you read it and then like present it to the team in our meeting later tomorrow, whatever. I'm like, all right, sure. So I read it, and it's Gong Labs by Chris Orlop. So it's Gong's content marketing. I never heard of them yet. Yeah. And I'm like, you go into, you're like, man, fine, I'll do it. And then I'm reading it. I'm like, oh, this is like really good, like very good. And it was like one of the first ones, which is the talk time. It was the first time they published the ideal talk to listen ratio using data for salespeople, which was like mind blowing. Style was really good. I was like, if I ever wrote content for B2B, this is what I would want it to be. Okay. That's 11 in the morning. At 2 p.m., I have one of those blind recruiter calls, where they're like, hey, there's like this common template, which is like, hey, Devin, I'm a recruiter for this company, but I can't tell you which one. They're like Series A. Here's like all this shit about them to try to entice you to take a blind call. Yep. Never take them. But that's like how kind of desperate I was getting. I'm like, I'll just take the call, whatever. So she was like, hey, it's a Series A company. They're in the sales tech space. They record calls. They're doing all this cool stuff with data. And I was like, wait, hold on. Is this Gong? Goes, yeah, it's Gong. And I was like, no way. And so I was like, look, luck or stars. I'm like,
3 hours later.
Wait, 3 hours later. Swear to God, same day.
Wait, you said the hold on. Yeah. You said the number one rule of the blind call is don't tell you who the fuck the company is. And you guess it. Like, okay, well, fucking it, so I'm going to spill the beans. Like, yeah, it's Gong.
No, it's when they reach out to you. So they'll email you and they won't tell you who it is. And if you ask, they won't tell you who it is. But if you get on the call, they'll tell you who it is. So that's like the whole,
So to give Chad, so if you're a recruiter, right, you have a contract with Gong, right? You don't want to tell them, because then why do you need me? Because you could go reply directly to Gong.
Gotcha. Okay.
So that's what it was. She's like, yeah. So then she could tell me. And she's like, are you interested? They're opening, it was for their first couple sales roles. And they're like 45 employees globally, 12 in the States at this time. And there's one other sales rep. And so I'm like, yes, like the stars are aligned. Like I got to say yes to this. And so ended up doing the interview process and got through. I didn't think I got it, by the way. There's Israelis that were on the other side of the interview screen from Israel. And one of them, a good friend of Ron, he spent 10 years in like the Israeli like surveillance teams, like counterintelligence.
Yeah.
For 30 minutes, stone cold. No emotion. I hung up the phone like, did he hear me? Like nothing. Like I got nothing out of the interview. Closed the laptop. Like, well, I'll just go find another job. And so I ended up they ended up giving me the job. And so I was the second sales hire for the team way back in the day. And that's how I got it. Was on the sales team for 3 years, and then I ended up moving to marketing, where then I wrote Gong Labs for 2 years.
So literally from the ground up, 45 employees to what they are now. You were in at technically the ground level.
That's real startup.
Wow.
Straight startup.
And
which was a huge risk coming from Eventbrite, where it's like about to go public. And I'm like, hey, I'm leaving for this 45 person company that records sales calls. And at the time, you'd be 5 minutes into a sales call, like, all right, Chad, so like, here's what we do. And Chad be like, all right, like, how do you do that? All right, so we record your sales calls and be like, hold on. You're going to do what? Click. Like people were not trying to have you, like this was very novel back then in this B2B space. So yeah, it was different times. But yeah, that's how it all got started.
But over time, it was a great product market fit, right? Like, you know what I mean? Because before Gong, right? So once I was in the boiler room, take it back to when I had the double-breasted Steve Harvey, right? I'm making 200-300 calls a day, and we had no way to get better. How do I hear that call at 11:10, bro? We just had a straight auto dialer. Remember the auto dialer days? You just press the button, boop, next one, boop, next one, boop, next, and you had no data. So how you as a business can run or forecast your business off of that, right? And we all know that we put in incorrect data, right? Susie didn't pick up. F her. This one did it. You know, and it is terrible, right? So when Gong came in, it was at a point where technology was evolving, and it was a point that you absolutely needed it. And it was around the recession time. I think you guys blew up.
Not yet. The recession was in 2020 when the pandemic happened. So
wait. I was thinking about like when you guys started, when it founded. I was in sales for like
2016.
Gong
was 2016. There's been other call recorders, but it was mostly for the like banking industry. So it was more compliance. It was like if someone calls about their money or like, you know, the compliance use case was there, but that's more like call center software. This was the first for B2B tech sales. You know, going back to the Twitters of the world and like all those, that's who we were like selling to. So yeah, that was 2016. I joined in 2017. Yeah.
That was crazy. You know, to hear your story about how you joined and to hear first account how Udi joined. Udi said the same thing. He said the CEO reached out. He already knew him. And he said the same thing. He was a military background. And Udi was like, he was making good money. And then he just saw it, right? He said, hey, if you give me a good product, and you show it to me, come back to me in 6 months. And they actually showed it to him. He saw the vision. He said, I want you to lead marketing. And he told me one thing about marketing. He said, how would you start it from the ground up? He said, I would put a billboard in my room. It said, 8 billion people, nobody cares.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he said, nobody cares. He said, that was the philosophy because nobody cares how good our product is. And what we're going to do is create really good, compelling content to get you want to come to us, right? And you was on the forefront of that. When I heard that story, I was like, oh, God, you're a fucking beast.
Udi's phenomenal CMO, and he had a huge part in the brand and my you know, mentoring me and teaching me along the way. And that was a similar thing we said on my team because we were like top of funnel, you know, and like awareness focused. And so the thing I would say to my team is no one gives a shit about our product. No one cares. No one cares at all about the product. That's not what we're here to do. We're here to get interest, build trust at scale, get people to know, like, and trust us. Then we earn the right to educate them on the product. And so that was always the mantra.
I got a question for you. for those that are not exactly familiar with the Salesforce workday, because you're shooting for quotas, is there an actual 9 to 5 punch in and punch out, or is it more of like you can get there when you get there as long as you kind of meet the requirements for the day, and then you can kind of
numbers matter. That's all.
No, that's what I'm saying. So what kind of hours were you putting in from the first company that you were with from the first company you were with, and then when you transitioned over to Gong, right? Were we talking like 8-hour days, 12-hour days? What's your workflow look like?
So it's numbers until but unless you're just getting started at the company. So it's kind of like this. It's like activity. I never cared how many cold calls you made and emails. It's like you need meetings and you need money. Like that's what we need, meetings and money. So that's what matters. If you can do it in 4 hours, great, but no one's going to let you start on day 1, showing up at 10, leaving at 2. You have to put in the work up front. Exactly. When I was at ClearSlide getting started, I don't know, showing up at like 7:45 a.m., leaving at 6, going home, eating, and then studying. Like I remember sitting at my like dingy ass dining table, which is like the one table in my apartment. It was just the table. It wasn't a dining table. It was a table. Right. I think my aunt gave it to me for free. It was like in her garage. And like with my notebook, just like, all right, what do we do today? Like, how are we getting better? Like studying the playbooks and just like, so 2-3 hours a night until I sucked less. Wasn't good for a while. I just sucked less and less. Once I got to the, 3-4 years later at Eventbrite, I was coasting. I knew what I was doing. It took 3 months to figure it out. And I'm like, all right, cool. I can show up at 9. I don't have to work super hard. I can I knew I was more effective. I was more efficient. And then then it's a numbers game. You hit quota. Yeah. You hit quota twice. You're good. Like, all right, keep hitting your number. I don't really care what you do, but it's in that order. You never just get to join, because if you miss your number and your activity metrics aren't there, then you look bad. You look like you're not trying. So it's like you have to be kind of careful. So my safety net, work hard, hit the numbers. Always just keep hitting the numbers, keep working hard, because God forbid you miss your number. They go, well, Devin, let's see. Were you trying? Yes. Were you here on time? Yes. Do people like working with you? Yes. Okay. You get another shot. You get another chance.
That's it.
Nailed it. So also with that, again, this is coming from somebody that doesn't know the sales force, right?
Yeah.
Yes, I know it's incentive based to hit your numbers and the bonuses involved. So is your pay rate based on a 9 to 5 like minimum wage plus bonus scale, or are you based on just commission only?
No, base.
It's in tech. Yeah,
base commission in tech. So you would get a $120,000, $150,000 salary, and then you get a commission based off the sales. So your salary is to get you to show up, be productive, make those calls, set the meetings, do all of that stuff, right? Now you hitting your bonuses is you being successful.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yeah. And a lot of times, Chad, it'd be like 50-50. Like a 50-50 split is really common. So it'd be like, look, $75K to show up. And if you hit your number, another 75 on that, you make
exactly on the back end.
That was pretty common was like 60-40. Yeah,
right.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yes, and I'm glad you gave that answer. Yeah, I'm glad you gave that answer, because people that have no idea about how the sales force works, we would never know that. You know what I mean? Most people have an idea of, punch the clock, right? Punch in a certain time, punch out a certain time, and, commission based off of if you do sales. So I'm glad you explained that to me, because I would have never known that.
See, but this is why the reason why we get paid so much, because it's the quick turnaround. So 77% of sales folks fail within the first 8 months. What it is, baby, and that's the stats. So we have to survive. We have to eat, right? We have to stay motivated. You're gonna have up days, down days, all in between, right? So when you don't hit your quota, what are you gonna do? You still gotta pay rent. You still gotta do those things. So that's to keep you in the door, bro. And the sales game is so difficult. So for those who's listening, that's why I got into sales, and that's why I love to get in sales. You can be the best teacher in the world, right? I tell my son's mother this all the time. And all my family, they're all teachers. You can be the best teacher in New York City. You're gonna make X amount of money.
Yep.
Right.
What you know what I mean? Even though we're needed and all those other things, sales is the only role where you get to control your destiny in terms of finances. If I want to bust my ass, I can make 300, 400,000 a year. But guess what? My schedule is going to look like 7 to 8. It's going to look like no eat, no lunch breaks. It's going to look like me being very, meticulous to detail. My CRM is up to date. My forecasting is on point. All those different things have to work in order for me to be that seller. But there's no other job in America that you can do. I know guys that are making more than the president.
Yeah, you should be. There should be. It's a good test.
The president makes 400K.
I mean, technically, in the realm of what is a lot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, that's not a lot. Yeah.
In a B2B company, at least like a more mature one, there should be 1 or 2 enterprise reps making more than the CEO on a cash basis.
Absolutely.
CEO always has most equity, but you know what I mean. So it's like, if someone's not making 7 figures, then it's probably not a very healthy company, because they don't have product market fit. They haven't figured it out yet.
Exactly.
So yeah.
Got you. I got another. I told you he was going to drop jewels today. I got another important question, and it reverts back from the construction thing, right? When we have people come into construction, because it's a very, very dangerous business. You make a mistake, you can lose your life. You can lose your life and maybe even kill somebody else, right? We have what's called apprenticeship programs. Is there such a type of a program in sales? Because guys are coming in brand new. I understand they give you the opportunity, but is there some type of system set up where they can say, hey, we're going to teach you at least for the next 4 weeks? Like maybe you can shadow somebody, like a senior, maybe not a senior rep, but
onboarding.
Right. No, I don't know. I don't know.
You want to take it, Devin?
Right. I don't know. Right. Yeah. Is there something like that set up? Okay.
Yeah. So it's called a 3-month ramp. So so what happened is like, sometimes like it depends on the company. Sometimes day 1 to 30 don't count. It's just like, go to onboarding, meet your coworkers, that sort of thing. Depends on the company. Okay. Then you have a true 3-month ramp. So let's say your quota for the quarter would be 100 grand. They'll say month 1 is 20K, month is, then it's 40, then it's like 60. Like they ramp you up to that number. So you're not on the hook for a full ramp on your first quarter.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And so what it is though, it's a test because it's like if you can't quickly close a deal and start to show those signs early, you'll just get cut before they even put you on full salary. So that's pretty common. I've seen guys not hit it, just miss their numbers. Sometimes they stay, sometimes they don't. Again, it goes back to those other reasons. Are they doing all the other right things? And this person deserves more time. I've had guys just like not show up to coaching sessions on a Friday, like just show up an hour late or show up smelling like liquor, and they just get fired. Like, we're not here for this. You're on day 14 and you're messing around like this. Like, just kick rocks. So you do get a chance to do it. Most people, Jarrett, 90% of people probably get through ramp and get a shot at the.
So it's like a probationary period.
No, that's free money.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you get paid full OTE, so it's kind of nice.
Full salary to go in there and say hi. Now it's up to you as the seller to what you do with those days. You can sit there and kick your feet up and take the money, or you can be focused and actually make the right questions, make the right relationships in the organization. Look at how the sellers are doing. Who are the top sellers? What does my territory map and my planning look like? You could be doing so many things. So don't waste that time. Right. I know I've definitely done it. I've wasted 60 days. I'm like, man. And now day 59, I ain't got shit in the pipeline. Don't know shit about the product. Yeah. I've done it. And then now I'm sitting there like this. So it happens like that. You know what I mean? So sales is crazy, brother. Sales is crazy.
No, I appreciate that again, because, not everybody knows the intricacies of the sales force. You know what I mean?
Yep. But that's why so many people fail, and that's why that percentage is so high, because every single onboarding from every different company is completely different. Some organizations are going to be so organized and complete where they have that mentor who's actually in that apprenticeship program, and everybody learns differently. Right. So I might come in there. I've been told at jobs, hey, just pick up the phone. These are your 1,000 leads. Make it happen. Yep. Right. So out that 1,000 leads, I've got 1,000 companies to call in whatever territory or whatever. And I have to figure out what my pitch is. What am I going to send out to emails and know what all this? That's why we started the personal branding shit, because I felt like that was bullshit. So if I'm going to get a territory and get 1,000 leads, guess what? I might have Iowa. And guess what? There's not enough business in Iowa for me to hit this number. So I might, and back to accountability, I could be like, holy shit, damn it, Devin has the best. He has New York and he's killing it. No, you got to figure it out. Gotcha. So that's why the personal branding is so important today, because you go on LinkedIn, you create your content, you build that trust and credibility, and guess what? They're coming to you and not to any other seller that's in the organization just making calls.
Message.
I think you dropped the gem there, my boy.
I'm ready to pod, baby.
I'm ready to pod.
Devin got me ready.
That boy ready to pod.
He got me ready.
No, absolutely. Okay, so now you're in Gong. You're in Gong. Yep. And now you're moving technically from step 1, which is the intro phase, right? The boiler room type phase, the introductory phase. Now you're moving into step 2, right? Phase 2. Walk us through that.
So phase 2 is like you just start to figure it out. So probably about a year in. That was a tough sell, because you got to remember too, there's established markets. People know what you have, and you're just selling something that you already know, right? Podcast mics. People know what they are. You need one or you don't.
Yeah.
What we were selling was what you could call an evangelical sale, which is you have to explain to people why you should even care about this new thing. And so what you're basically doing is like, hey, you're used to what Jarrett was saying. Like, you're trying to explain to people, hey, you have this new future, this new way you could operate, which is to record these calls, get information from them, and make better decisions and coach better. But the problem is you're running up against people saying, but like they're looking at reality as like, this is the way it just is. Like, this is just life. What do you mean it's broken?
It won't change.
Like, why do I need that? Right? Like, why do I need that?
Consumer education.
Right. Literally, I've had people say, Devin, I've been running this business for 7 years before you called me today. What do you mean I need it now? So it's a different, you have to master that conversation. It took a few months, probably up to a year before I was like super comfortable. Like, you've seen these punches. You're like, I know what to do. Like, and then moved into mid-market, which is just bigger accounts, bigger deals as the company got bigger. And then I started making money. I started like making real money. I was like, finally, like, all right, cool. Like I'm still working hard, but not as stressed, right? I've got it figured out. I've got my playbook. And right when I've had like a couple quarters making the most money I ever had in my career is when I decided to give it all up and move into marketing. So I just seem to find ways to make my life harder sometimes and take bigger risks.
No, wait, you're not running past that. Go back. Devin, I don't want to say like you're in.
You have my curiosity, but now you have my attention.
I love these little breakouts.
I don't want to say you're indecisive, but hold on now.
Yeah.
You told us the story about you moving to San Francisco. You're by yourself, no family support. $1,000 in your pocket. You took a risk, took a job you had no idea, no education on. Mm-hmm. In the middle of that job, you now get a cold call from Gong and you pivot. Now, you had Eventbrite. It was almost a guaranteed thing, and you pivot. Guaranteed thing versus risk. I'm starting to think you're a risk. Do you like it?
Absolutely.
Devin likes to live dangerous. It's feeling that.
Raise up, gonna be trouble.
I think Devin likes the adrenaline rush of I know what this leads, but over here is a dark door. Like I'm gonna have to walk through the door.
My wife would agree.
Right. So that's what I'm saying, because now you go to Gong. Now you're saying you were in Gong, you're starting to make money, right? You can see that money coming in, you can start to plan out and budget, and something else come up and you like, I'm eating over here, but I don't even know what this is, but fuck it.
No. But what's so real about like you said, because you're in sales making a good amount of money right now. And for anybody listening, in 2023 and beyond, in order to be a successful seller in B2B tech, you have to be a hybrid role of a marketer and seller. So you kind of saw that ahead of time to say, you know what, I'm actually killing it here. But most the great sellers want to understand, how am I making the money and who is providing them leads and the meat on the table, and which is marketing. So when we don't have a bad quarter, guess what? If we're not doing good outbound, you're like, where the hell are my inbound leads? Who drives inbound leads? The marketing team. So I'm assuming, Dev, your sales brain was like, if I could get to know this, how much more dangerous will I become in my role? And then Gong just laid you the opportunity, which is rare, because if you're doing really well in sales, most people will want to hinder you and keep you there.
Wait,
that's fair.
You said hinder. Now you know where I'm going with it. So I'm ready for it, Devin. Hit me. So you was in the first company. You're an English teacher. You understand? You're an English teacher, and you're coming in here taking our fucking jobs. This is what hold on. No, this is what construction is. This is how construction works, right? Apprentices come in, the old timers. Imagine now we come in. Let me use construction as a baseline, right? The old timers. If you look at the old videos of construction when they erected things like the Statue of Liberty, Golden Gate Bridge, these iconic things, these guys were no safety measures, smoking, drinking, walking around, fucking drinking on the job. It was just crazy. Nowadays, guys like me, a safety guy, I walk in, you ain't got your hard hat on, your harness on, you on the machine. I just throw you right off the job. So now you get these apprentices that come in and say, hey, I have 40 classes of education under my belt, and I'm battling these old timers that are stuck doing it. I've been doing this 20 years, kid. You don't know what the fuck you talking about. You just you got that education. So I'm ready for it now. You came on a job with an education ready to go be a teacher. Now you in sales, and now you're rocking. You got one of the 8 spots. You got one of the 8 spots. I know you beat out some people that was mad. I need to hear the story. Did somebody threaten you, sugar your coffee too much or something? Like, you know what I mean? Tell us about, like, did anybody like come at you like, yo, you got to step back, you're stepping on our toes? It has to be, because it sounds like sales is very competitive. And that boiler room.
You talking about the clear slide at the first job?
I'm just talking about any in the clear slide and in Gong, right? Because obviously you're moving up and you're pivoting, and they're looking at you like, who is this hot shot? Because it always happens, right? It always happens. Somebody older that's been there longer feels like they deserve the opportunity that they feel like was handed to you. Tell us a story about that.
Do you remember you also The Last Dance?
Yes.
With Michael? You remember the game where he made up somebody talk shit about his game, and just because he needed an enemy. Do you remember that? It was like some obscure
You
basketball
said
player.
Last Dance. All I'm thinking is Save the Last Dance. I'm seeing you
No.
dancing.
So the last dance.
I don't remember that shit.
No, so the Last Dance was the Bull story, the Michael Jordan story. And one of the things that Michael Jordan said that maybe he never expressed before was he used to make up stories about what the other team said about him,
saying,
just to make him mad. And they didn't even say it. He'd be like, "You said my mother what? Like what? These shoes
It
ain't
was
nice."
like
MJ.
Some guy put up like 30 points. Michael had like he put up 12. He had like an
back
okay game.
Right.
And he just said to himself and told like some people in the locker room that like the guy came up to him and was like, "Nice game." That's it.
Yeah.
That never happened. He just made that up. And the next game he went off for like 45 and kicked their ass or something.
Right.
And so I bring that up because when I was at ClearSlide, I had a director come in. It wasn't the one that had hired me. It was a different one because we had a change in management. And he put me and my manager in a room and he just looked at me. He's like, "You don't have what it takes. You're not that guy. Like you've got 30 days to hit these metrics. I don't even think you're going to do it. I'm only doing it because Matt thinks I should, but I know you don't have what it takes."
So you was on a PIP.
I was on a PIP. I was on a PIP and I got off the PIP. And the reason I brought up the Michael Jordan story was all I've ever needed was someone to tell me I can't do something.
That's it.
You say you can't, I'm fired up and I'm like, I will prove you wrong. And so
I love that shit.
So from that time, and I was like a year into my career at that time. I was very young, very like, a lot of people I think would have got pressed that way and crumbled and just been like, "Yeah, you're right. I'm not that guy. I need to go back to SAC." And I was like, "Nah, fuck you. Like, I'm going to do this." And I did it. And then I got off PIP and he ended up getting fired for something else. So on the way out the door, I was like, "Nice game."
Shit.
And so ever since then, Chad, honestly, did I have a lot of people? You always have like a VP or some someone always like trying to press you because a lot of times in sales, they use like fear tactics or pressure tactics to like press you. They want to make you nervous and to stress you out because they want to make you perform. And so you asked me, did someone like do that kind of basically on the way? The truth is in the last 5 years, not really. So I made it up in my head. I made up stuff like I'm trying to prove somebody wrong. Like, you said I couldn't be successful in sales. Let me prove that I can. You said I can't move into marketing and kill it. Let me prove that I can. And so I always just had that in my head, like trying to prove something to myself. And once I proved it to myself, I would just make up stuff and like, got to set a goal and be like, yeah, I got to figure out a way to do it.
It's crazy for me to hit it because I've seen your journey, bro, the past 3 years. So like we're OGs of LinkedIn. Like when it really started popping off, you were there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was only so many of us, right? And so you went down this path. Like, I'm curious for you to know as a marketer. So once you shifted from sales to marketing, what was the craziest thing that happened to you that made you say, "Man, I'm actually really effing good at marketing"? And then the second part, how did you go into personal branding?
The first time that I knew I was killing it was when someone called me a fraud. So
hold on, wait. You want to call him out? You want to call him out?
Nah.
He's trying to go viral. But I like it. He's trying to go viral. I like it. I like where he's going.
I'm ready to pause.
Shout out to Shans. That was
put
great.
Put him on. Listen. Put him on blast. This is your platform.
Hey, Chad, no free press for the haters. All right, you don't get no free press. I always think of like MGK when you go at Eminem and Eminem responds. All you do is make MGK more famous. So I don't do that. But it was a hater, and there's two of them actually. So I would write Gong Labs, which is research, right? So I'm literally using data, and then I'm writing these blogs of just like, insights, like, this is what works when you talk to decision makers. These words help you close more deals. And there was a competitor whose CEO was one person, and there's other dude who I won't name, who's just some guy. I think he's the CEO too, which is kind of funny. And they would troll me every time I dropped one of these on LinkedIn. If you go, Jarrett, if you really wanted, you could go back to these old ones and you could find these negative comments. And they're like, "You're a fraud. You don't know what you're talking about." And I hit up my CMO, Udi, and I'm like, "Oh, it was the cursing post. That's what it was." I wrote a blog that said cursing on sales calls
and why is it
actually helps you. It does work.
I remember
and
that.
I had people like quoting the Bible at me after that one. Like people were not happy. The Bible Belt was not a Devin Reed fan for a few months, if not still. But these two CEOs would come and just troll everything from that post onward. And I talked to Udi and I'm like, "Hey man, like I'm kind of like nervous. Like, am I making Gong look bad? Like I'm doing what you asked and I think we're doing well. Like engagement's crazy." And he was like, the only reason they're pissed is because it's working. They're pissed because it's working and their marketing is not. He's like, they should be spending more time marketing their company. They'd probably be doing better. Keep doing what you're doing.
Message.
And so I'm like, okay, actually engagement is great regardless, which is why I don't say their names. And what they didn't realize is the CEO every time would come post on my post, talk shit. And if you know how the LinkedIn algorithm works, all he's doing is saying, hey, following, why don't you go look at what I just commented on? And I would just get more followers. Like it would just help me more. And so I was like, all right, cool. Like now I'm starting to like accept, like, I kind of hope I get some hate. I hope like 10-20% don't like what I'm doing because they're just going to boost my numbers. More people are going to end up seeing it and I'm going to get more known. It's going to work. So that's when I knew I was killing it. And that's when I was like, all right, cool. I can get used to this. This works for me.
And as a result of you posting that, then your personal brand began to grow, and you started to see the real, actual effects of that. Like, but who came up with the? Because I saw that shit, and I thought the same thing. So that's why I'm gonna bring it up. I saw that shit. I was at the agency. It was like, hey, how does cursing? I curse all the time, and I'm killing it. So I'm sitting there loving that post, and I'm trying to be like, hey, this is the data that shows that boom, boom. So like, who came up with that idea to actually do that? Because that's outside the box. You know what I'm saying? Did you actually come up with that idea?
Here's exactly how it happened. I'm sitting at my desk, literally just sitting at my desk. And I'm like, I got to think of the next Gong Labs, right? I got to think of the next hypothesis, the data that we're like, here's the thing, data team, we need to go look at. I was like, fuck, I don't know. What about cussing on sales calls? Huh. I remember sometimes I've been cursed at. I'm like, but I feel like when I curse, I feel like they kind of curse too. I'm like, maybe it's not a bad thing. And then I was enough. That me going, fuck, I don't know, was the like, maybe that's it. And so I just went to the lab and was like, I don't know if it's good or bad. I personally think it's not bad. I didn't know if it was good, but I didn't think it was bad.
Right.
And so we looked at the data and it was basically like, and there was nuance to it, Jerry, you might remember, which was like, I didn't go in the blog saying, hey, open the phone with, how are you doing? Or like, be blatant about it. What the data showed was when a sales rep curses and the prospect reciprocates the curse,
then you're in motion.
Win rates go up. And what I was what I conveyed was what's happening is trust. You're letting your guard down, your corporate polish down. You're saying, hey, you're like me. Let's be lax. Let's be casual. I trust you. That's what's happening. And therefore correlation to win rates. People didn't read the fine print and were like Devin Reed saying we should curse on sales calls, which was funny because even to this day, I'll get on like a discovery call as a buyer and someone will be like, Devin, how the are you doing, man? I read that blog. And I was like, you didn't read it all because that's not what I said to do.
And it always said the prospect, you don't curse first. You let the prospect do it to say it's okay. And now you're in motion. Now you have that trust.
Exactly.
And that credibility established. Like,
so
bro,
I gotta chime in because I have to do it now. We had a situation arise like this. Three days. That's what. Don't fucking laugh. Don't laugh. I'll put Jarrett on the spot. So we're in Miami. We went for the Pod Summit, and we are talking to a client. And our partner emails us, and he's excited. So he kind of curses in the chat. Jarrett doesn't realize that the chat is going to everybody. So he responds with the cursing. Right now, mind you, we don't know that our clients are like Christian-based.
The CEO, everybody's involved.
Everybody's involved, but they're also Christian-based, right? So now the chat comes, of course, where the client curses and we curse behind it. And they read it and responded like, well, fuck yeah, let's roll with it. So Jarrett brought it to me like, holy shit, I fucked up. I said, what happened? And go ahead, Jarrett, tell me.
To give you context, we're in Miami.
We're in Miami.
Our flight is delayed 12 hours. I'm on no sleep. We go to Podfest something. We got in the house at 4 a.m. I stayed up and all that stuff. I'm going to go 48 hours, no sleep. Absolutely. I got the responder like, yes, the client loves you. I'm like, yeah, fuck you. That means he fucking loves you. Fucking loves you. Yeah. Replied all. Everybody's like, holy shit. I'm sitting there like, I almost fell out. I almost fell out on the balcony. He'll tell you. I'm sitting there, oh my God. Oh no. Our business is crumbled.
So it's, and this is what we talk about, organic and being your authentic self, right? Look, there it is. He pulled the message up. Oh, he's out of control. He's out of control.
You got too far.
That's Jordan's out of control. But this goes to show, right, that exactly what you're talking about, we actually went through organically, right? Yeah. Organically, right? And it shows that it worked, right? it worked. He obviously that's not in a professional manner of how we normally do things, but
Absolutely.
it came like you said. Somebody cursed first. He responded like, "Oh, I'm excited." Like you excited. It went out, and everybody was like, "Well, shit. If you two guys are excited, then we're excited." You know what I mean? And
it opened the door.
It just made for a great situation. I got a question for you. So now, Devin, you are in this role. You're still at Gong, correct?
I'm at Clary now.
I'm sorry, you're at Clarity. I'm sorry, you're at Clarity, right? So now you're moving up the ladder. So you position from Gong, you go to Clarity, right? So now you're not, you're not 23-year-old Devin. You've made some money. Do you have a family yet? I'm curious.
Yeah. I got 2 little girls and a third on the way.
Perfect.
God bless, baby.
God bless. How old are your daughters now?
3 and 1.
Okay, so here's the reason I'm asking that, right? Because young Devin was reckless. He was reckless. You were reckless. That's what you were reckless, right? You're like, I'm just going wherever the sun shine, I'm going, right? Now you have a lady in your life. You have children. You've started a family now. So now you're at Gong. You're making a couple dollars at Gong. What's your mountaintop? Like, where do you say, okay, I can get to this level and be comfortable? Or are you feeling like you're going to get a couple dollars, and if another opportunity shines on you, you might be like, babe, I know we good, but the sun's shining right here over there. I might need to go left,
Chad, you know the answer to that question.
That's real. That's real.
You must have a very understanding woman.
I really do.
Wait, you know what it is?
But
he said, don't box in my creativity. He said, don't box in. I got to do what I got to do.
No, let's get. I want to get real. Let's get real, Dev.
Yeah.
Because you created a great personal brand on LinkedIn. You have the newsletter that's making 6 figures on the side. Why go to a job?
Right.
So, good question. Kids, benefits. Half kidding. Like at the time when I went to Clary, I had 1 kid with another on the way, and my thing is like, as all men are taught to do, but dads specifically, like your job is to provide. Like if you need to sacrifice a dream to put food on the table, like that's a no-brainer for me.
Absolutely.
So I said, but that's part of it. But the honest other part was I'd been a head of content at Gong. I wanted to do it again because my goal is to be the best B2B content strategist in the game. Hands down. When you think of B2B content strategy, if my name's not in that sentence, I'm not doing enough.
Wait. Don't go any further. We learned that exact same thing at the podcast fest, right? They said, we was in a room of 1,000 people, and they said, who's the best in their industry? You remember that, Jarrett?
Yeah.
They said, if I say A, who's the best in that? B, right? Who's the best in that? So it's funny that you just said that because that's exactly what they taught us. And they said, if you're not striving to be the best in your industry, when they mention your industry, if they don't mention your name, then you're not actually striving to be successful.
No. Let's go deep. Let's take him to school, Dev. Let's go. I'm ready to go, Dev. You ready to go? All right. So you start. You obviously because you want to be the best in the game, right? But what does that look like in the B2B space? How do you quantify the best in the game in the B2B space?
So you don't get an award at the end of the year. There's no Academy Awards for being the best. Right, okay. So you have to make up your own metrics. That's the truth. Like you got to, like I have metrics for my business and things that decide that, right? Yeah. The first thing was when I moved into marketing, I get competitive. I see Dave Gerhardt getting tagged all the time, Chris Walker getting tagged all the time, and I'm like,
shout out to DG and Chris.
I mean, I'm not as good, but I'm pretty damn good. You need to put my name on that list.
Put some respect on my name.
I started tracking. I'm not on these lists. I'm number 10. I'm number 8. I'm number 5. And now I'm getting asked to be on shows and podcasts and stuff. And so I'm like, that's one way to think about it. Like, are people reaching out to me because I am somebody worth talking to and have something to say? So that's one of the ways you can do it. The other ways is like, am I making more money? Are people coming to me for a specific thing? If you come to me for email marketing, that's not the same thing. If you come to me for SDR output, that's not the same thing. But when I started getting folks reaching out to me, VPs, CEOs, saying, I want you to come help me with content strategy, then I'm doing something right because it's, my marketing is working. I'm talking about the right things and people are trying to hire me. So it's funny that you asked that question because I put on my newsletter, I share with people, this is what I'm trying to do. And I get people responding like, how do you know you did it? And I said, you don't. And I like that. I just keep doing it every year. On my business plan for the reader every year is be the #1 B2B content strategist. There is no end. You just keep going.
Oh my God, he's going crazy. He's going crazy in school. He's taking him to school.
Taking him to school. Hold on, let me throw it on again so you can hear it.
Let's do it one more time.
One more time.
Are you taking him to school right now?
Listen. Period 3 has ended. Period 4.
No. Let's go to the advanced level because you could have. First of all, let's talk about the newsletter, right? Where did you see? How do you monetize off the newsletter? For those who are not listening, or those are listening, right? LinkedIn has a newsletter option, right? Where you can actually extract the difference between LinkedIn regular posts and the newsletter is that people actually sign in and want your content. So if I subscribe to his newsletter, I'm only going to get his content. And I'm going to get it every day like clockwork or whenever he produces his content. So you have so many areas and avenues to monetize your personal brand. What was that interview process like with Clary and why did you go that way? Like, you know what I'm trying to say, bro? Because you have so many, the world is your oyster. You know what it is. Like, why did you choose that? And I'm going to ask you a follow-up question after because I'm very curious.
Yeah. So we had started like why Clary too. So I had the reader. I could have gone full-time with the reader. And it's funny, but my wife has been extremely supportive because she's been wanting me to continue to invest in that. Like, she's like, your potential is with the reader going solo. It's not at any B2B job. Yeah. I'm the one who's like, I feel you, but we keep having kids. So I'm like, you need to.
That's real. Hey, hold up. School's in session.
Yeah. So pandemic started. We didn't have anywhere to go. We went, you know, we started making a family. So I'm like that.
He got another one.
Right. Let me, you know, build my skill set as a leader at a new company, you know, different time, you know, get more experience, deeper experience. So when I do go solo, I'm that much more valuable because I have that much more experience, right?
There you go.
So it's kind of like a slower build to a bigger payoff. And I've always been self-disciplined in that. Like, the ability to say no to something now to something bigger later is a huge skill set. It's tough to do, but I believe in that. And so when I went to Clary, I told Kyle straight up, who's very understanding. He has a LinkedIn brand, like he's been doing his thing for a while. And I said, I'm not giving up the reader. It's going to happen in tandem. And I put it in there that like any IP and anything in the future is always mine, and like you're good with this.
Is it Kyle Coleman or?
He's my CMO. Sorry, so he's head of marketing.
Kyle, what's his last name?
Coleman.
What did I just say? Kyle Coleman.
He said it. He said it.
Yeah.
I want to stop you right there because you made a very valid point that me and Jarrett have discussed extensively for the last 2 weeks, and we try to explain it to other people. A lot of people ask me like, hey, Chadeo, you know, I know you're doing the podcast and you're doing this and you're doing that. You know, why you're not doing the construction and why you're not doing this? And I said, because I don't get out of the bed for under a certain number. And they just kind of looked at me. I said, because I don't get out of let me say it again. I don't get out of the bed for under a certain number. I have the experience. I have the know-how. That's what you're paying for. I didn't do all of that to get to a certain level to let you undervaluate me, right?
Yep.
I'd rather sit home and work on something else, which is whatever I'm working on, than come and give you a discounted rate at the full workload. Because if you give me a discounted rate, you still, if I say I want $200,000 and you say I can give you $100,000, you still want $200,000 worth of work.
Exactly.
So you still want double the work at half the pay.
I tell people it sounds like you want someone else.
Right. That's what it is. And the fact that you have acknowledged that, because Jarrett has acknowledged that several times, right? It's the reason he's sitting here today, because he was with other companies and he was making a good amount, but he felt like he wasn't making what he was worth. And he made the decision, like he said in New York, if you walk away and you quit a job, there is no unemployment, right? If you quit, you cannot file for unemployment. You must get fired, and there's a parameter, right? So Jarrett was like, I don't care. Like,
I'll give you the context, Devin, and then I'm going to ask you the follow-up question. I love where Chad is going with this, right?
Yeah.
But for me, I was working at the agency, Devin. I don't know if you know my story personally, bro, but I was at the agency. I was in a weird space. I just came from Talkwalker, which was a social listening intelligence platform. I brought to market their Influencer One product. So I was doing that. I was killing on sales. Long story short, I ended up getting canned maybe about 10 months later. And I'm like, how the hell did I get here? And I was just killing it. And then basically I'm at an agency. The dude just lets me just, be myself, right? We hit it off, and I started creating content. I started the personal branding thing, so on and so forth, right? I end up quitting there, and I created a concept, right? I did a free agency post. I put my face and my body on Steph Curry, which is so funny that you said it earlier, on Steph Curry, and put the company logo on the jersey and posted that up and said, breaking news by Adrian Wojnarowski. Jarrett scores this amount of points, and he's the fucking superstar stud in sales, and he's helping to bring a team to the championship level. I had Google, LinkedIn, Microsoft, so many different companies reach out to me. I landed on what I landed on, right? The problem with me is, right, with the personal brand, and once I actually realized the value of it, I started to realize, why the hell am I making the same as John Smith or somebody else who isn't putting the time and has the network and a relationship that I have? Yep. Because remember back in the day when I was at the cold call spot, they used to ask me, where's your black book? Who can you call? What can you do, right? So now today, that black book is LinkedIn. So if I'm saying I got X amount of connections, and these are actually people I can call, get on a podcast, have relationships with, come to New York, we're going to take you out to lunch, do all of that stuff, right? Why am I making the same salary as John Smith that is simply cold calling, and I could not get with it? So what I did was, bro, I told my cousin straight up, I was getting numbers from CEOs. They weren't making sense. And I wasn't going to reach out to my friends, because you get maybe one ask, and I'd rather them see the journey than make the ask. Right. So what I did was I called my cousin. We started OTB Digital, and then within that week we had our first client. We're 7 months in, and we're about to be we're our 6-figure business today. I love that because of that, bro. And so for me, I'm in the torn between, could I go back there, because I know the value that I can bring with my personal brand to an organization. My concern is, do they see it? You know what I'm saying? And I think you've got it, because you're advising Notion and some big tech brands. So I would want to ask you, for me, how do you get in those spaces where you're advising those other tech companies, even though you have the proof of concept, you have the audience? How do you get in those conversations?
And how are you proving ROI with that? So add that with that, right? How are you showing them what their ROI would be if they hire you based on what you're providing?
Yeah, so I think so landing like advisor roles and others, and clients calling in general, is for me has always been inbound. Always inbound. So the thing that I tell people is like, look, so my track record, Gong is very successful. I was very visible in that role. That did a lot for me. Clary, similar, building up to that brand. And all I did on LinkedIn was talk about the journey and the stuff that I know. So yeah, there's times where I'm like, talking about Dreamville, I might be talking about my sneaker deal that I wish I had, but like, and that humanizes me. But I'm sharing tips, tactics, frameworks, experiences that is helping people, and they're consuming that, and they're like, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about. And so back to earlier, what we're talking about, when someone says content strategy, I want Devin Reed to be, how people say word of mouth marketing. People don't actually think about the word. What is the word
dark
of
social
mouth? It's B2B.
Shout out to Chris. That dark social, baby.
So people hit me. All the stuff that you've listed have been inbound. Like, people just reach out to me. I'm working on something cool, Devin, or I have this problem. I want you to come and help. So I get on the phone. And then you asked about ROI. Is what I've learned is, when I start, I'm not going to share my rate right now, but my first rate when I got started was $33 an hour to just write blogs. $33 an hour. It's a lot more than that now. And the reason is I've solved bigger, more expensive problems. So when someone's like, hey, I want you to help with the content strategy, I'm trying to do this, this, and the other, I go to like, why? And eventually you get to like, my CEO is launching this product, and if we don't get the content right, it could flop. Beautiful. That's why you're going to pay me, and why I'm not going to discount, because that's a multi-million-dollar project.
There we go.
And if it doesn't succeed, your ass is on the line, and you calling me for help. I didn't call you. I don't need this. I got 2 kids and a third on the way, and I like to go shoot hoops once in a while. I'll go do that if the money's not right.
Message. But it goes back to what we said earlier, because you have that sales hat. Right. Most marketers wouldn't ask the why. That's the sales hat coming in and digging into the problem, and is coming out. And they love you so much because you built so much trust. They're going to extend their hands and say, this is the problem, Devin, because I want to work with you that much. And this is what I'm going to do, man. So I'm curious. This is my last question, bro. And I know we're coming up on 120. Yeah. What is the craziest experience, or what is the craziest thing that has happened in your life as a result of your personal brand? If you want me to start you off, I started one, bro. Like I talked to so many CEOs. I put up a fucking medium rare steak, and I told this story earlier on the podcast. Put a medium rare steak up on LinkedIn. It has nothing to do with business. It was just 7 o'clock. That shit was good, and I just put it up. And then the CEO of Stars Entertainment likes the damn post of Star. I got in his DM, and we started talking for roles for power. I was trying to get in power, bro. Didn't happen. but I shot my shot. So it's just so many crazy things.
Devin, I got him earlier, so I got to get him again. You know, he's just too comfortable saying that he was sliding in other men's DMs.
You're gone too.
I might use a different verb, but yeah. I would just be like, we were DMing.
You gotta stop saying that. You gotta stop saying that.
I'm a sniper. I'm sorry. That's all I know is sliding. I don't know.
Shoot or shoot.
Shoot or shoot, B.
Yeah, go ahead, Devin.
I mean, like, I don't know how crazy it is, but I think it was cool. I posted, I want to be the first B2B marketer with a sneaker deal. And few people were like, Gary Vee already did it. And I'm like, nah, okay, second, but like, don't talk to me about that. And so my buddy saw it, and he has a friend at York Athletics. I don't know if people see it. It's a shoe brand. It's out of New York. And they saw it, and they connected me. I got 2 free pairs of shoes, and then they ended up doing some, like, we might do some sponsorship stuff for the readers. So it's not like crazy, but it was crazy in a way of like just putting putting a goal out there, putting something like that I'm aspiring to, and the universe answered with like a couple of free pairs of kicks. Like, that's pretty dope to me. Like, I know it's not Adidas or anything. I had a couple other conversations with other kind of like tier 3 brands, but I don't know. I thought that was cool.
Bro, to be a salesperson and a marketer and getting free shoes, I haven't got a sneaker, a lace, or nothing. I've got
about
friend.
400
I
pair
haven't
Jordans.
got, you know what I'm saying?
You got about 400 pair of Jordans.
But how dope is that? And so for everybody listening, I screamed LinkedIn to the mountaintop. So you mean to tell me you put in something that you wanted to do? You said, I want to be the first B2B person with a sneaker deal, and then you're on the way and started those conversations and towards that. Like, that's crazy. So for everybody listening, all my people that's from the block, from the Bronx, from New York, that's watching, all of our peoples, get off of Instagram, get off of Facebook, right? The decision makers are on LinkedIn. I'm telling you to change your life. Why would you want to be putting your aspiration for your cousins, your brother, the dude down the block? Guess what? They're not going to be able to change your life. Put yourself in the rooms that are going to change your life, and it's going to be LinkedIn, and the reach is still good. So while the reach is good, get your ass on there and be yourself and say what you want and give your expertise, because we all have something valuable for someone else.
Message. Boy, pardon.
I'm ready, bro. You know you expired. I'm ready to what now? I want a JT.
Before we get out of here, Devin, real quick, off the top of your head, just if I'm somebody coming into the game right now, give me the top 3 things that you would recommend to me as somebody that's never done sales to say, I would like to be the next Devin Reed. Give me the top 3 things that you would like to say to somebody that you believe will be the next Devin Reed.
So I'm not flipping it on you on purpose, but the first thing I always say is, like, people are like, you want to be the next Dave Gerhardt? You want to be the next Chris Walker? Nah, I'm trying to be the first Devin Reed. So don't be the next Devin Reed. Be the first you.
That was
be the first
message. Go, that boy Pardon. Let's go. That's ready. One. He ready.
So that's the first thing.
Right.
I would say second is be intentional. I know we talked about it a lot. A lot of decisions I made were intentional. Think about the next step. Don't think about just tunnel vision. What's the next thing? A slightly better role, slightly more money. Take roles that are going to get you to the next thing. If you want to be a CEO one day, take the next job that's going to get you there. So be intentional. Think ahead. And a way that I like to do it is I go 3 years from now, 5 years from now, if I look back at the decisions I made, what am I going to regret?
Right.
I don't like that. I don't like regret. So I do the other thing. So think of next step. The other one is like where accountability Devin comes out, and it goes, just start. If you're going to start posting on LinkedIn, just do it. Quit trying to wait for perfection. There's no right day. The best time to start is yesterday.
I'm going to cut you off because I don't like that. I don't like that answer because Jarrett says that shit to me every day, and we argue every day about that. So no, Jordan,
Devin's
scrub answer number 3.
This is what we do. OG, Jordan, let him know. OG, let him know.
Scrub answer number 3. We go with Devin's top 2. Yo, that was an insider thing between you and Jarrett.
Last question, bro, because we have a question.
Yeah.
They asked, any books help you on your journey, Devin? Like, what books? What are you reading right now? What gets you focused?
The number 1 book is the book Influence by Robert Cialdini. It's about behavioral psychology. So what he does is he just packages up all these different behavioral psychology experiments over the years. Some of them are like over 100 years old. And he takes them and he puts them into a marketing lens. And the reason it's so impactful is all sales is and marketing, and what he says in this book is getting people to comply, which is getting people to say yes. So how do I reach out to somebody and get them to give me what I want by basically understanding what's going to make them say yes? How do I appeal to their interests? How do I frame my stories? How do I frame my asks in a way that is most likely to get a yes? That book, I read it every year or two, and everyone on my marketing team, I make them read that book because it is an absolute game changer.
So you know what that means? What we're going to do here at More Than the Title, we're going to find that book. We're going to put the link up where you can buy it. I guarantee you we're going to get a personal copy of it, because if it's that influential, then I feel like we need to have it as well. Thank you, Devin. We
Absolutely,
appreciate that.
Dev. And you know, as we end off, brother.
Yeah.
I just want to say, man, like, personally, because you're one of the LinkedIn OGs, man. You're one of the
Right.
people I saw in my early days. It was you, DG, Chris Walker, and like I've had them all on the show, bro, which is insane to me. Udi, right? And how our stories are intertwined, and I've been so far removed from it. And that's what's amazing to me, bro. And that's the power of LinkedIn. That's the power of social media. I want to say thank you for doing what you do, bro, because we've always supported each other and rocked out. And this is our first time. If anybody, this is our first time meeting.
Right.
Yeah.
After years of supporting and y'all like your shit. You like my, I'm like, yo, bro, I rock with you. And then, you know, I thank you, bro, because I reached out to you. I didn't know what you was going to say. And you showed up, man. You showed out. And I really appreciate you, brother. And I wish you nothing but success. And I know you're going to you're going to kill him in the game, man. You're already a legend if nobody's told you.
I appreciate that, man. Thanks for having me on, for real.
And let the people know where they can find you, Devin.
Absolutely.
So if anybody wants to get in contact with you and ask you about any type of information, or, you know, just maybe try to apply for a mentorship with you and say, hey, man, I'm aspiring, you know, can you help me out? Let the people know where they can find you.
Best spot, Shocker, LinkedIn. You see my name on the screen. And then the second one is thereader.co. So it's the reader, REED. You can see the sign. You know?
There you go.
It's .co. If you go to .com, that's not me. If you ask why, .com is too expensive. Your boy's on the budget, so you know.
Wait, hold on. What the hell is Shocker? I never heard of Shocker.
Right, what is that?
What the hell is Shocker?
What is that?
Shocker?
I never heard. What the hell is that?
Did I say Shocker?
You said Shocker? I could have heard it was like another. You should find me on Shocker. I'm like, yo, bro, you got another social.
Oh no! I said it might be I said no Shocker because we were talking about LinkedIn the whole time. No Shocker.
I'm off it. I'm like, what the fuck?
You know what it is, Jared?
No.
You're not
Shocker.
at that
I'm
money
LinkedIn,
level
man.
yet.
Not a Shocker money level.
You're
yet.
not at Shocker money level. That's an app that we're not ready for yet.
Well then, class is now over.
We
But
appreciate you, Devin.
Much
Yeah.
love, brother.
Absolutely,
we
guys.
appreciate you.
Thank
For
you.
everybody that tuned in, man. This is another great episode of More Than the Title, episode 1 of season 4. Dev, much love. I'm gonna send you my number, man. You're in New York. Anytime you're in New York, you got the red carpet. Please hit me up, man. Whatever you want to do, brother, it's on us. That's the least we can do, brother. Let's make it happen.
Appreciate you, boys.
And also, you know, we like to thank, once again, we like to sincerely thank everybody. This is actually season 4, right? Like he mentioned, Udi was the very first. We're up to season 4. This platform could not be possible without the support of the people. So we sincerely thank you. Just to let you guys know, we're excited about this season moving forward. And please, if you want to show support, like it, share it, subscribe to our YouTube channel, you know, download the Alive Podcast app. That helps us bring you this type of content. Season 4, episode 1 done. We are out of here.
Out of here.
What you know about me? I seen it all, heard it all. Oh, what you know about me? I done it all, just want it all. Oh, what you know about me? I seen it all, heard it all. Oh, what you know about